This is the Awake Athlete Podcast. I'm Jessica Mkowski, mindset coach and plant-powered athlete on a mission to guide all who are ready to great heights in sports performance and life. Through the 10,000-foot view, I share teachings of living awake with the sole purpose that we all realize our innate power to be the masters of our minds. Welcome back to the Awake Athlete Podcast. I am back in the podcast closet, just returning. I guess I'm a week now back from almost 3 weeks in Costa Rica, which quickly became the first time I visited one of my favorite places on this planet. You know, BJ and I have often held a vision, well, not often, always, for a long time, held a vision of living in like a jungly type area. We always thought it was Hawaii, and perhaps it will be the island of Kauai someday. But when I stepped foot in Costa Rica for the first time, I thought, whoa, maybe this is it. And it really is a special and unique country that is so aligned with one of my core values really in life, which is so against the grain, which is living in an air of defenselessness. And they abolished their military over 50 years ago and put all of the money into education and wellness, you know, healthcare. And the pura vida way of life is, you know, it's giving and receiving love all the time. There's many ways to describe it, but I think that that's really the core of the essence. You know, it's, hey, no problem, man, no big deal, right? Like always just going with the flow of life. Wow, it's just such a lesson to take and to put into action. Giving and receiving love all the time. I mean, you guys, that's our essence. And I'm not talking about ego love, human love, clingy love. It's unconditional love. It's really steady. It's powerful. And it allows for everything. It really does. It allows for, I used to not get this either. Like, why? If there is a higher power, why would that higher power allow for such atrocities to be, you know, played out here on this planet? And the thing is that we have free will and we have a history. We have a history in this life, and our soul has a history. And this moment right here, whenever it is that you listen to this podcast, this moment right here is I sit in May of 2023 in this little closet in my loft in Carlsbad, California. All of it is the culmination of past action, that we live in an environment of cause and effect. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And although I thought this podcast was going to be about something different, it's really leading into another theme that has been staying with me, which is safer roads and safer biking and safer driving and just safer roads all around. And that's something that we see in Costa Rica. So to kind of back up a little bit, BJ and I were down there for almost 3 weeks. We left on May 4th. And then on May 6th, we started the 5-day Pura Vida cycling challenge, which is 5 days of just unbelievable cycling. They have a wonderful community. We were in a suburb of San Jose, which is the capital city of Costa Rica, in a town called Alajuela, which is just a bustling little town, families and communities, and in the midst of it, a huge cycling community. And it's interesting when I come back here to the U.S., because people hear about what we did, you know, people who know us, who are in the cycling community, triathlon community, and also people like in my yoga classes at the beach who, you know, don't cycle. And, you know, the first thing they say are like, oh, well, how are the roads? Like, aren't the roads really narrow down there? And, you know, you just can kind of like feel the fear. And although well-intentioned, like they don't want anything to happen to their yoga teacher. I get it. I don't want anything to happen to them. But the beautiful message that I get to carry back from my experience in Costa Rica is that there's no aggression. there's just no aggression on the roads. And so, yeah, the roads are narrow and you're either going up or down. In Costa Rica, we say arribe or abajo. Abajo is down, arriba is going up. Anyway, it's everybody's road. And you can have, we can have 40, 50 cyclists with us on a ride, and you have fuel trucks. Like, you have huge trucks. You have cars, you have motorcycles, you have families walking on these roads. And there's a lot of steep, windy roads, either going up or going down. And everybody is working together to ensure the safety of another. Now, I'm not saying that there's not one person in Costa Rica that doesn't have aggression. I'm sure they do. But these roads are like no other roads that I have ridden on. And my experience as a triathlete, almost 20 years now, and committing over a decade ago to a life where I walk this earth without fear. And I got that from Byron Katie. Her book, Loving What Is an incredible book. It was a huge game changer for me that was introduced to me during my yoga teacher training. And during one of the teachings in that training, Philip, my yoga mentor, shared that Byron Katie lives a life where she's committed to walking this earth without fear. And I immediately lined up for that way of life. And it has nothing to do with me, standing in the middle of an interstate highway. That's not smart. I understand the world I live in. There's hell on earth. There's violence here. There's darkness. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I don't watch the news. I haven't read a paper in, my God, I don't know, 20 years, because I don't want to give it my attention. I understand it's there, and the dark is getting darker, but there's something else that's happening, is that the light is getting lighter, and that's where I hang out. And it's not a life of denial. I'm well aware. I have tapped into and cultivated deep, deep compassion over these last 12 years of meditation. And to be quite honest, compassion was something that, just seemed like a little too much for me back in the day. But I feel a lot. I feel the suffering. I notice that when I hold space on a yoga retreat, I feel a lot of that. And I have the tools to let that energy move through and transmute that energy. And when we transmute that energy, I don't really have to worry about where it goes. If I recite a mantra or use a technique until I'm calm again, that energy has now transmuted back to calm, which is that unconditional love. And so having a second round at the Pura Vida Cycling Challenge, and now I've had 10 days of, I guess 11 days, because I did a shakeout ride, 11 days over these past 2 years of riding in this country, and really seeing the kindness and the courtesy and the lack of aggression on the roads. It really just brought me to sharing this episode, which is, safer roads. They begin with us, like they begin with you. And they begin with me. And I used to be really fearful. There was a time in my life that every time I got into a car, I thought I was going to be killed. It was terrible. And it was well before I meditated. But just naturally, I would go to my breath and I would just breathe through it. I learned that from my mom a long time ago. She used to have a lot of anxiety, and breath is really what got her to the other side. And I use that as I overcame my own anxiety in life and fear of living, which is really the fear I'm talking about, is this fear of living. Because I do hear about stories about people who are, frightened to get on their bike and go outside. And so I would say, if you're frightened to go outside and get on the bike and ride, I would definitely say, don't do that. And I would 100% say, let's look at that fear. And I'll share one technique. It's ho'oponopono. It's an ancient Hawaiian prayer. It means to make things right again. And there's an incredible backstory on it, and you can check that out. It's HO'Oponopono, ho'oponopono. And I used this when I moved back from Boulder to Rhode Island and just really felt the intensity of living back in New England. And I realized that if I didn't up my game to preserve the lifestyle that I discovered when I lived in Boulder, Colorado, that I was going to fall back into some old tendencies, which I didn't want anymore. And so that's when I found my meditation teacher. And very soon after our meeting, he introduced me to Ho'oponopono. So if you're interested in it, and you like the backstory, check it out. And if you're kind of rolling your eyes like a prayer isn't going to do much, well, it's not going to do much if you don't believe in it. But if you want to get out on the roads and you're really scared, then I would say take some time and feel that fear, like really feel that fear, and bring your awareness right into the center of your heart. And I'm not talking about your beating heart, but I'm talking about the space that's behind your sternum. It's in front of your spine. And recite this mantra and really feel it. Really feel it. Like really feel it. And be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself. And when you are calm, get on that bike and just go for a couple miles and do it from a place of calm. Because if we're doing things from a place of fear, we become a magnet for fear. And if we're not dealing with our fear, if we're too afraid to look at our fear, it's unconsciously we're creating more fearful experiences in our life. This is the law of attraction. This is Newton's third law. This is every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And it's a law of science, and there's no way around it. So you don't want to move from that. But boy, there are so many things you can do to get yourself calm. And Ho'oponopono is a wonderful prayer. So how about I share it with you? It goes like this. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And so you recite those phrases over and over until you feel calm again. When I first did this, I thought I was going to throw up. It felt so icky and woo-woo and dumb. But I was so done with being fearful. I was so committed to walking this earth without fear that this was a huge tool for me, and one that I use today, and one that I have used to overcome, trauma in my life. It's really amazing. So give that a shot. But the other thing I want to point out is, so we need to work on our fear, or that's not going away on its own. We have to stand up to it, right? It's you and you. It's me and me. And the other thing is, watch the aggression. You might say, well, I'm a really courteous cyclist. Well, my question would be like, what happens when you're rushed? Have you ever slammed a door? Have you ever yelled at your pet? Have you ever yelled at your kids or your spouse? That's aggression. That's anger. And under anger is sadness. Under fear is sadness. So we've all been aggressive. And we want to look at that in our lives. Don't be afraid to look at what's going on within you. There's nothing that you're going to see that you can't handle. And remember that as a cyclist, I'm assuming you're also a driver. And so have you act aggressively when somebody has cut you off? Have you act aggressively when you're late for something and you're driving aggressively? Like, what I'm getting at is if we want safer roads, and I'm not saying that there aren't drivers out there that are aggressive and angry and mad at cyclists, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about you, and I'm talking about me. I'm talking about until we heal and transmute the fear and the aggression and the anger and the sadness within us, we will continue to attract those things in our life because like attracts like. So as a cyclist, if you have an experience like that on the road, chances are somebody's going to come close to you. Somebody's going to go past you just so fast, just so unconscious. Because that's the truth, is that most people are walking through this life asleep. They're not awake. They're certainly not an awake athlete. So when that happens, the only thing you have control over is your response. If your response is to be angry, because underneath that you're fearful, pull your bike over, stop the motion and get yourself calm again. Shake out that trauma, because to your nervous system, that's a threat to life. And it's traumatic. I learned this in my massage education many years ago in a trauma in the body class that I was taking. We got to let that trauma shake out. You know, all those moments where like, oh my God, I almost hit that person. Oh my God, I didn't see that person. Oh my God, that car came so close to me. Those are all hits to the nervous system. Hit, 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 hit. And what we do is we just keep going. And so what I learned from that class was pull the car over, pull your bike over. You know, just simple things like walking through the village. If I kind of slip off the curb and almost sprain my ankle, it's like I stop. I just take it. It doesn't take long. Just take a few breaths. Let that shake out, and then you start to rid yourself of that type of energy that is attracting exactly what you don't want. So I think I'm just going to leave it there. If you have questions about this episode, like, let's chat about it. It truly is the answer. We are the answer, not the driver, me and you. And tuning yourself. Watch what you're tuning to. Don't be afraid to look. And tune yourself to calmness, which is really powerful. When you're calm, when we are calm, we are invincible. And so, yeah, there's going to be moments in life that are going to rattle us. All of that is just the result of past action. And it's how we move forward that paves our future. Are the messages in this podcast resonating with you? Is there a spark that has been flamed in a part of you that wants more? Get over to awakeathlete.com right now and click on the homepage link to schedule your free 30-minute discovery call with me. Because if not now, when?